Alright, let's get a few things out of the way first. Under the law of giving things away, I am legally mandated to inform you that Nintendo did send me a free review copy of Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. Though I am grateful for them sending this, I will not let it affect my overall opinions of the game. I'm sure you already knew that, but I digress. And yes, this is the 6th part of the series, but no, I am not forgetting about New Leaf or City Folk. Being sick for the past week and a half has thrown a wrench in all of my plans, which sucks since there was virtually nothing I could do about it. So I'll try my best to finish up this retrospective soon and pump out all the reviews of modern games I missed in the meantime. But as for now, a greater purpose calls. A game I've seen almost no one talk about. And whenever a controversial game comes out in November and few critics have had time to review it, you know what must be done. A monotone, cynical douche has to sit down and review it, but really, I've been excited for months to finally get my hands on Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. Now, I want to clarify, I kept my expectations non-existent coming into this spin-off because I wanted to evaluate it in a fair, unbiased way that doesn't constantly complain how it should have been Animal Crossing U. I was merely excited for it because I wanted to see for myself if Amiibo Festival was as much of a wretched insult to Animal Crossing fans as I had been hearing. So, is it? Well, why don't we begin with the story, and boy is it a compelling one. Back in the summer of 2015, Nintendo was preparing their digital event for the year's E3, but little did they know it would cause an explosion of outrage. When Amiibo Festival came out of nowhere, everyone cheered for the unveiling of the next Animal Crossing installment, only to be let down by a board game. Following the presentation, Nintendo rapidly tried to clean up the disappointment by claiming it looked bland because as opposed to Mario Party, it was more of a board game. And now you take control of an amiibo, trying to right their wrong and prove to yourself that, hey, maybe it's not so bad. Obviously, there is no plot, but one thing I would like to mention is how charming the writing is. This is something a lot of the reviews I've read fail to really elaborate on, which is a shame considering it's one of the best parts of Amiibo Festival. All the dialogue, being spawned when you land on any space, is written in the first person and is supposed to represent you, the player, which I found really neat. Some of the lines even got me to chuckle as the scenarios being presented were so utterly ridiculous. Like who mails a gift to a friend and forgets that they put money in it? Or who takes a photo for an ID and sues the company when the photo doesn't come out how they wanted it to? Wait, that last one, could it be an allegory for the reaction to this game in particular? I don't know. Anyways, another wonderful aspect of this title is its presentation, for the most part. Much like almost every Wii U game made by Nintendo, the graphics look stunning. Ignoring the low polygons, the art direction is phenomenal and as charming as ever. The engine runs smoothly too, never resulting in any major frame rate drops. Plus, the environments, that being the town and the minigame backgrounds, are really well designed and polished. It's clear a lot of effort was put into Amiibo Festival's visual presentation, and that's something I have to give the developers a lot of credit for. That's why when I see reputable sites give this title a 2 or a 4, I just sigh. Even if you don't like this game, you have to at least give credit to the marvelous visuals and fantastic writing. The only presentation aspect I would have to nitpick would be the fade transitions. Now, if you're into editing videos and such, you'll know that sometimes when you transition from one frame to another, you can add a dip to black effect to make the change a bit smoother. It seems the developers forgot to elongate that because the transition is a bit too short. For me, and I don't know about anybody else, it's kind of jarring. As for the soundtrack, it's alright, I guess. There's nothing really special about it though. Most tracks are simple remixes of old iconic Animal Crossing songs, which is fine since they're well composed, but it would have been nice to have a bit more originality. The few that are, like the title theme and stage select theme, are somewhat catchy. So now we finally get to the gameplay, and here's where a lot of the flaws of Amiibo Festival become apparent. Once again, I would like to clarify that none of my complaints have anything to do with the fact that this is a spin-off. All of them pertain to the game alone. One of the major flaws with the system system are the amiibo themselves. If the title didn't give it away, to play a round of anything in Amiibo Festival, you need amiibo. So for example, if you want to play a generic board game, you would need at least one amiibo. The trouble is that whoever is the amiibo player has to touch the gamepad with said amiibo and then remove it to roll the dice. Every single time. Sounds minuscule, right? Not really when you're playing an hour game and you or your friends have to do this gimmicky thing multiple times as opposed to just pressing a button. Sure, Mario Party 10 did this, but it was just as pointless then. On the topic of pushing things, that's all you do in the main board game. All you do is press A and read dialogue boxes. Like I said before, the writing is superb and the boxes are varied, so I enjoyed reading them, but almost nothing exciting or interesting happens in this game mode. It's extremely boring, and in the beginning you have to keep playing this game mode to unlock the other more interesting minigames. I could see players immediately shutting the game off after just playing the main board game. With CPUs, it only gets more tedious because you can't skip their turns or fast forward, so you have to sit there for a minimum of 30 minutes doing absolutely nothing as your opponents and you occasionally roam around the board. It's kind of the same issue Codename Steam had a while back that has since been patched out, so I hope the same will happen with Amiibo Festival. If I do have to applaud this generic board game for anything, I do like the changing seasons and different holidays that are celebrated. Not to mention the concept of gaining and losing money and happy points as you go is pretty fascinating. Oh yeah, that's the main objective of the board game, to gain happy points, which is essentially due to luck and the chance of the die. The fact that it's so luck-based can be extremely frustrating though, as more often than not, I would get constantly screwed over with bad rolls as the CPUs, specifically boy number fucking 3, reaped all the benefits. The one thing you can do to influence your standings is the turnip market, which is similar to any old Animal Crossing game where you can buy turnips to hopefully get a profit by selling those turnips. And aside from the other events that happen that don't do all that much to change up the gameplay, that's it for the board game mode. Besides the board game being almost entirely focused on RNG elements and me getting infuriated at times because of it, playing this with other people was still kind of fun. It's one of the weakest game modes for sure, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't have some redeeming qualities. The next item on the agenda are the minigames, which can be purchased with happy tickets and played with your very own amiibo cards. Now, if you want to fully experience all these minigames, you'll need at least 4 people and more than 6 amiibo cards. Spoiler alert, only 3 come in the box. The minigames range from okay to pretty damn good, so let's start with the decent ones. The first minigame up on the cutting room floor is a little game called Acorn Chase, and it's as ridiculous as the name implies. Basically, you work together with your fellow animal villagers, amassed through the cards, to try to avoid the Rossetti car that is following you. Along the way, as the title suggests, you'll have to collect acorns and a key to escape the lawn. Movement is also tied to placing amiibo cards on the gamepad, which is frankly off-putting and gimmicky. Despite this, the minigame is pretty entertaining, but I wish it was a bit longer. That's sort of the case for a lot of these minigames. They are, as my compadre would say, one-and-done minigames, where you play them a couple times and they get stale. As you play more and more of this particular minigame, the level design doesn't really change to add variety to make the returning playthroughs more unique. Following Acorn Chase is something called Mystery Campers. This one is pretty standard. You try to guess which 6 amiibo cards are hiding in the 4 tents available. Each time you guess, you're told which tents you got correct. The only problem, and dang, I've been saying that a lot, is that this minigame is all about trial and error. There's no skill required. It's the equivalent of doing an algebra question through guess and check, where you're told each time whether your numbers are right or wrong. I don't mean to be too harsh to this particular minigame, but I really don't like it. Now on to Fruit Path, which is as exhilarating as you're seeing on screen. You team up with another actual person, shocking, I know, and use the dice to try to get as much fruit as possible. It's based almost entirely on luck and is simple in the worst possible way. It does almost nothing to make it stand out from the rest of the minigames and is possibly my least favorite. Then there's Rossetti Bob. I'm sorry, I can't say that with a straight face. Resetti Bob? That's even worse than Enter the Dragonfly. Well, at least I can get a good chuckle out of this Whack-A-Mole clone, which uses the gimmicky placing amiibo cards on the gamepad to hit the Resetti. If it wasn't for this wonderfully implemented gimmick, I think the minigame would be okay. I don't understand why I can't just use a button to hit the Resettis, and the rate at which they came up was faster, so my reaction time would have to be quick. That would make the minigame somewhat uninspired, but if it was included in the main board game, I don't think it would be a problem. I fail to see why the developers couldn't have just included the minigames in the board game mode. That would have at least made the board game a bit more fast-paced and competitive. The same can be said for the amiibo card battle, where players pick 6 amiibo cards and take turns drawing each one. Now, since I don't actually own 6 amiibo cards, I didn't get to play this one, but from the gameplay I've seen, it doesn't look too terribly interesting. This brings up another huge flaw with the game. The whole pay-to-play scenario that you know I'm not too fond of. Why can't I play this game without the cards? Why do I have to go out and spend $6 on a pack of amiibo cards that aren't really appealing to me? Why do you want me to give you more of my hard-earned cash, Nintendo? In all honesty, I really wish this was a standard board game without the amiibo functionality shoehorned in. I get why it had to be done. Amiibo are selling like stocks after World War II. Of course, Nintendo would want to capitalize on the success, but when I can't play a certain mode in a party game that already lacks content because I don't have the necessary amiibo, for lack of a better term, it sucks. Okay, I know I'm being a bit negative, but I promise you, I actually really like the rest of the minigames. The quiz show is by far one of the most interesting additions as it tests your memorization and knowledge, which is actually quite fun. There were really no gimmicks either. It was just a quiz show that had the classic Animal Crossing charm to it. I genuinely enjoyed my time with that mode, but I wish it could have been longer. The same can be said for Balloon Island, which is another fantastic minigame. It has you, playing as an animal villager, jump on balloons to rack up points and then try to land on a platform for more points. It's surprisingly addictive, and I found myself coming back to it frequently to one-up my previous score. Can't really complain here. The final minigame we have is probably my favorite and one of the most unique out of the bunch, Desert Island Escape. Here, you take control of 3 animal villagers where they all have different powers, and you must collect resources to escape the island. I swear I've never seen such a novel idea in a long time for a board game. It's really fun, and perhaps it's because I adore the survival setting in games, but this sucked me in for many hours. Seriously, I would even go as far to say that this made Amiibo Festival 10 times better than it would be without the inclusion of such a genius mode. So overall, Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is actually a decent game. Sure, it has its problems, and there are quite a few of those, but it also has a few positives. The visuals are polished and great, and the dialogue is well written. Not to mention, the Desert Island Escape minigame was a joy to play through, and some of the minigames like the quiz show and Balloon Island are pretty good. While the other minigames are somewhat fun, they can get a bit boring. The same can be said for the main board game, which is really tedious to sit through by yourself or with friends. As a single-player game, Amiibo Festival will provide some degree of entertainment with Desert Island Escape, but as a multiplayer game, it falls flat on its face. If it had more interesting ideas like Desert Island Escape, I would wholeheartedly recommend it to you. The problem is, the majority of the game is generic, lacks replayability, and is not fun. Therefore, I cannot recommend Amiibo Festival to you at full price. You know what that means, folks. Say it with me. You should wait for a price drop or sale. And if you really are upset this game exists, vote with your dollar and ignore it. But as always, if you disagree or agree with me, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching and take care. Have a wonderful day and goodbye.